I just want to now introduce Stephen over here. Remember, as Stephen walks up to the stage, remember you can ask questions through our question board. So yeah, Stephen, come on up.
Right. Friday evening, all right. Let's have a warm-up challenge. It's easy, I promise. So I have a problem statement here. I want to build a system that connects my hardware devices and talk to each other. All right. So this including public devices and home devices. And the most important statement is the IT strategy, cloud first. So everything should be deployed on cloud. All right, question. Where do you host your system? A, public cloud service provider. Or B, local data center. All right, assume that they both good data center. All right, so if you choose A, raise your hand. All right, I can see a couple in this room, so I assume that the rest are B. Right, exactly. Hybrid mode, C. Okay, so why you limit yourself to choose A or B? How about C or D? Well, let me have a guess. The company's strategy is putting everything on cloud, right? So I put everything on cloud and my job is done. Well, this is very obvious. But I think before you make the decision, did you think about the non-functional requirements? Does your application latency sensitive? How about HA and DR? Well, if you didn't consider those things, you only have one option, deploy to cloud, right? So everyone knows about the 80-20 rules, right? There's no silver bullet can solve all the problems, right? As a good engineer, I think we should think more than that. Company strategy is good to solve 80% of the problems. How about the other 20%, right? So if you think the other percent, you need to think outside the box. Do not limit your option. All right. So go back to our woven city. Okay, we are actually working for a brand new city. We are facing a lot of challenge and we need to make decisions every day. So let me share some architecture challenges with you. Okay, we have a lot of information in the city. So how could we share those right information to the right people at the right time? How we can actually balance the user privacy and the data usage? How could we do authentication, authorization when you have a lot of people with a lot of application? Okay, because the city is like evolving, right? So do we have flexibility for the new requirements? Do we have scalability to handle dynamic traffic? Can we actually do deployment on other places? We are facing challenge every day, and we need to think outside the box to solve those problems one by one. Let me do a summary here. Okay, when I consider every architectural decision for any system, I will make sure I fully understand the following. Okay, first, no matter what you do, you need to fulfill or even exceed your business goal. Okay, functional requirements and non-functional requirements, that's very obvious. Constraint and limitation, all right? Everything has a constraint. So please consider constraint and limitation. Last but not least, there is no free lunch, right? Everything has a trade-off and opportunity cost. So understand the trade-off is very important, especially money and time. All right. I think there are a million ways to solve the same problem, right? If the IT strategy doesn't work, adopt other solutions. Think outside the box. Cloud solution is not a silver bullet. It may not solve all the problems. Sometimes we do mix and match approach to cater the special requirements. So lastly, where's your silver bullet? Well, you are the silver bullet of your problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so my question now is, does anyone have any questions for Stephen? Because I think that was pretty interesting. I have a few questions myself, but I want to open up to you guys first, just to see if you guys are curious about anything. Okay, well, I'll ask my questions first, and then you guys can just think of your questions. But first of all, Stephen,
Don't be too hard.
Out of these architecture considerations, how would you go about prioritizing them?
Well, I think, as I said, we're working for a system, right? We solve a business problem. I think the most important one is the business goal, right? No matter what you do, I think the business goal is the first top priority, right? So we do a lot of technical things. We do a lot of consider functional requirements. At the end of the day, we contribute to the goal. So that's what I think. That is the most important one. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, kind of following up on that. You're going to work with many other teams, obviously. How do you align yourselves with these architectural considerations with all the teams you're working with?
Right. So the usually what I do for those as I said, understanding is very important, right? If you do not understand the team's requirement, you are in deep trouble because you will create something different. I promise. So requirements, first thing. Second, you list out, I will have a list of all the requirements, and then we will do and match with the goal. Prioritize the requirements and try to come up with the design. As I said, like our city is like changing all the time. We have a lot of requirements and we have a lot of moving targets as well. We adopt agile methodology. So we have sprints and we prioritize according to the backlog. This will help us to try, test, and improve our product. So this is how I usually work with multiple teams and try to gather the requirements, prioritize, and then do the Kaizen, do the improvement for the sprint.
Awesome. Yeah, I think everyone here has experience with misaligned requirements and getting burned by requirements. So if you have that experience, just nod your head silently because we all know it's there. We all have experience. So let's get those done first. We have a question from our live streamed audience here. How does the system criticality, like health and safety, of levels of protection factor into the architecture and separation of different systems in the city?
Okay.
It's a complicated question.
How does the system criteria, okay, the level of protection factor into this architecture? Okay. And separate. Okay. I think different system will have different non-functional requirements. Like we're talking about like safety or security or the health, right? we do segregate between systems, right? We try to decouple systems. So also, all right, decoupling multiple systems, like we try to using a lot of new technology, for example, microservices, um, and try to segregate systems so that even though one system have a problem, they will not affecting another system. Um, so when we considering architectural design, we need to make sure that we can't assume, well, I I don't think like we should assume that the system like can be like your system will be available 100% all the time, right? And especially the other system may not be always available 100% all the time. So make sure that you cater that one as in your architecture design as well.
Yeah, and just to add a little onto that, because this is about the city itself, and I've worked with Stephen quite closely. In terms of like some criticality, there's things like storing privacy data, which is considered PII, and you have to have a lot more higher consideration in terms of storing that data. And something like that could be like you have to encrypt your data. In that case, you have to separate that system out from the rest of your systems to handle that encryption. And that is also architecture consideration that we have to take into account when designing these systems. Last question online, very simple one. Who are the users?
Who are the users? I guess almost everyone. The resident outside the city, we have visitors can come to our city. We also have third party as well. So I would say everyone.
Okay, we actually have one more question online now. How do you cooperate with team members on system architecture, or for example, like workshop formats, methods, or tools for cooperation?
Interesting one. System architecture is very system like how to cooperate, right? We have many teams, right? Different teams will do different things, right? We try to get a team's requirement and try to set out our enterprise architecture. So when we have an enterprise architecture, as I said, we have a strategy, right? But sometimes strategy doesn't work. So the company has a strategy, and then we follow the strategy. If the strategy doesn't work, we will think something different. So different team will follow the strategy. Once something doesn't work, we will talk to each other and try to fix it using the out of the box thinking.
Yeah, and also I think something that we've worked together on quite recently is like one thing to keep in mind is to write things down a lot. If you have meetings, just talking to each other verbally, and once you're out of the meeting, people don't remember what's going on and be like, "Oh, what did we say in that meeting? Oh, well, we'll just go with this thing now." It can change a lot of things. So make sure to document a lot of things, meeting notes, make things asynchronous communication and stuff like that. It helps a lot. Trust me. Okay. Oh, I like this question. What are some of the mistakes for making architecture decisions? Do you have any like common traps, common pitfalls?
Mistakes. All right. I guess as an engineer, we used to think a lot of functional requirements. All right. We we miss out, sometimes we miss out the non-functional requirements. That's why we build something and sometimes it's slow, right? So I think this is a very common mistake when we think about a system or think about the architecture. I guess the best answer or the best way to cater this particular problem is like try something at the first beginning, for example, POC, to measure what you want to do for your functional requirement and your non-functional requirement, for example, the latency or the time or the execution time, so that we try to minimize those mistakes at the first beginning. That will definitely save you a lot of time and money afterwards.
Yeah, that reminds me of like previous experiences of people overcomplicating architecture. Don't overcomplicate your architecture. Do what you need first, and then kind of make it in like a flexible design first, and then you can build off that. But people with too much of a scope at the beginning, that's going to lead to a lot of trouble later. I think I see one person nodding there. So someone knows at least. Okay. Let's see. How does I'll probably have time for two more questions here. So I'm sorry for all the rest of the questions. We're trying to get through them here, but time for two more questions. So how does the system architecture approach the possibility to open access to third-party entities? For example, external projects willing to join your ecosystem.
Interesting, interesting. I can share more about the external parties. Because I used to work for a lot of open API projects. So I think external project or third party is very important. Maintain an ecosystem within the city doesn't mean anything. You need to talk to external parties. So when we decide to talk to external parties is sometimes it's dangerous. They can create a lot of problems. If your system exposed to internet, there will be a lot of attack, and there's a lot of problems will happen. So when we consider the system architecture to connect to the third party, we have to think a lot of security factors in this particular system. Also support as well. When we do production support, that will be much harder. So I think when we, my experience is like when we try to do something for third party, make sure you think twice for your security requirements.
Let's see. One more question here. All these questions are great. How about this? Who's responsible for choosing the right tools? Do you leave the initiative for the given team, or are they supposed to follow some set of company rules?
Well, same as my presentation, right? Every company should have a strategy, right? Of course, like some of the requirements, like for example, some of the teams, they do special things. The strategy may not work. So the team in the Woven City, they can talk to the architect. We can actually talk to the architect and say, hey, this doesn't work. We can counter propose something to the architect as well. So if that is great, we can adopt it. For example, like back to my challenge, we have the option C. So I think we are very flexible, and we are very reasonable. So all the good solution will be used in the Woven City anyway.
Awesome, thank you. I think that's about how much time we have left. We have a bunch of questions. I don't know if I can reply to these manually. I can reply to these manually. So once we move off, I will try and get Stephen to answer these in text so we get these answers. But we do have to move on for now. So thank you, Stephen. Another round of applause for Stephen, please. Yeah, great job. Okay. Cool. So we will have a 5-minute break. So if you need to go to the bathroom, if you need to refresh your drinks, get some more food, please do. Just come back in 5 minutes. Thank you.